everybody. This is the Hello Road podcast. My name is Ethan.
My name is Paul.
And today we have a very special guest. This guest was last on over a year and a half ago. It's been a while since we've had a guest in general.
Yep.
Due to this whole COVID thing, but we're excited to finally do some over-the-air interviews. We would like to talk to this person today, Manual Carrillo. He's been on the show before. We're very excited to have him here again. So welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yay. So, since we last talked on the podcast, it's been a while. Things have changed for you quite a bit, haven't they?
Oh, a lot has changed, Mr. Ethan Tufts. So, yes, a lot has happened. So, when I made my last appearance on the Hello Road podcast, that was my last week at Roadshow by CNET. And so it was kind of like a bittersweet little thing that we did there with Mr. Stephen Ewing, who I'm happy to say I still hang out with him on a regular basis. We go out to dinner and we have a good time. Love keeping in touch with that guy. He's a good friend. And I love everybody at that publication. So I had a magnificent experience there.
Yeah.
It was challenging, no doubt. And, it was, the workload was a bit too much for me and just how I'm wired. But I've moved on since. I went to Bali immediately after that, from July 1st of 2019 all the way to September 16th of 2019. So
I like how you just say that just casually. I went to Bali for half a year. No big deal. Just decided to quit my job and go live the island life for a while.
Yeah. I needed my reset because it was Roadshow was by far the hardest, the most difficult, the most challenging job I ever had in my life. I wasn't a person who was used to writing and then writing again and then writing again and then writing again and then writing again. In my previous editorial positions, I'd be doing other things in the interim, editing somebody else's work, going to a meeting, doing a bunch of different things. Sure. So I had the ability to reset my creative batteries between pieces. And at Roadshow, it's just, okay, once you're done with one thing, go on to the next and the next and the next. And I can't sustain that. And so that affected my speed and everything. So yeah, it really weighed down on me over that year being there. And so I needed something to figure my life out. I needed something like a creative reset, an eat, pray, love kind of thing to happen in my life. And Bali absolutely did it for me. It was like 10 years of evolution, 10 years of therapy in 10 weeks. It was incredibly transformative. Bali has its own plan for the people who go there to seek what they need to seek through being in a place like that. And so it did a lot. It was a whirlwind for me, and it happened quickly. I didn't really have a defined plan when I went there. I figured, okay, maybe I'll be there for like 1 to 2 years. It's not going to be a permanent thing, but let's see what it can turn out to be in a 1 to 2 year time span. And after week 5, I was getting sick a bunch of times, and then the big whammy was when I got E. coli poisoning through my blood. There was I was going to a different Airbnb every week during my time there, and by my 5th week, my 5th Airbnb, in a particular in a location on the island called Sonor. So that's the east side of the island, the southeast side of the island. I was staying in this place that was adjoined to a restaurant, and there was because there was food nearby, there was a rodent problem, and there were rodents that were crawling through a drain opening in my bathroom, and I didn't realize I had left my toiletry bag open, which was a big mistake. And for some reason, the rodents were crawling through my toiletry bag and defecating all over the bag, and I didn't realize I was brushing my teeth with rodent-infested, E. coli-infested toothbrush in the whole toiletry.
I think we've got the title for this episode.
So I basically got E. coli blood poisoning, and that took me down for 2 weeks straight. I was bedridden for 11 days. By day 5 of the illness, when I was just, it was coming out of both ends. The fever was high. I was afraid that I had dengue fever, which is when the blood platelets separate from the blood plasma separates from the blood, and you can die from it. And I was worried about that. So went to the doctor. They confirmed it wasn't dengue. They were like, yeah, it's just like a food poisoning kind of thing. And I was like, I know it's gastroenteritis. I've had these are all the same symptoms I've had with gastroenteritis, but it's like all throughout my bloodstream, and it's like terrible. It's consuming me. And so all I could do was I made the mistake of taking ibuprofen at the beginning of it, and that made it kind of like what's going on with COVID now, where if you take ibuprofen, it makes things worse. So I made
Yeah.
the mistake of taking ibuprofen instead of acetaminophen, or as they call it internationally, paracetamol. But so the ibuprofen actually it made me feel good for like one day, and I was out on the boat, and I was like swimming with the dolphins and stuff, and then like it just got worse the night after.
Oh,
And I was just I was bedridden for about 11 days straight, and it got to the point where after day 5 of being just incredible, I mean, just I had never been that sick in my life, and after 5 days of that, it was so bad. And it was such an extended period of time. I started forgetting what it was like to be healthy. And
Yeah.
it's like the muscle memory or something happens after about 5 days of being that ill, where it's like, oh, whoa, this is like, is this life now? The body gets confused.
Yeah.
And so, I was worried about like going and walking out in the streets again. Like, oh, do I have enough energy to cross the street quickly if a car's coming, or like a moped is coming by quickly? I was scared. It's kind of like the fear that senior citizens have, but when they get into their 80s, like, oh, like, the world can really hurt me now because I can't defend myself properly. I was kind of having those fears, and it really rocked my world. So, but yeah, I got through it. But during that time,
God.
when you're in bed and you have that much time to be alone with your thoughts, you get to kind of take stock of your life, and it was, I think that's when the majority of the reset happened. Actually, it was that illness that kind of helped me soul search, soul gather, become more in tune with myself, in just like the deeper innermost things that were going on with me. And it was at that point, about week 6 at that point, that I was like, okay, I think I've gotten what I've needed to get from this experience. When I have to go back to California in September to be the best man at one wedding, and then 2 weeks later, the officiant of another wedding, I'm just going to stay in LA. After I'm not going to come back to Bali like I had originally planned. And so that's what I did. And when I came back, I'd lived internationally before 10 years earlier. I had lived in Australia for 6 months, and when I came back, I was kissing the roads I was driving on pretty much. There's speed cameras every couple of kilometers in Australia, and it feels very police statey. And if you're just afraid of going more than 68 miles an hour or 110, or else you're going to get caught by the cops and everything.
Sure.
I'm driving 80 on the 10 freeway in my Audi A4 when I get back from Australia. I'm like, oh my God, 140 kilometers an hour. This is amazing. So I had that feeling coming back from Bali, but even more amplified because this was a third world country. And while it took 3 months in Australia to begin to start to appreciate what I had left behind in the United States, it only took 3 weeks in a third world country like Indonesia to really appreciate what I had back home. So I was really, I was so stoked about coming back to LA. I just felt this incredible sense of opportunity, this incredible sense of promise that lay before me. Oh my God, I had never, I recommend if you have the ability to leave your home country, wherever that country may be. But, for most people listening to this, the United States, you don't realize how good we have it here. And I know this country is effed up in so many different ways, a constellation of ways. But man, once you really live somewhere else, you really realize, oh, there's some things here that I didn't realize how good we had. And it happened in Australia, it happened in Indonesia, it happened in Bali. And man, I was so happy to be back. And it really just puts everything into perspective and makes you more appreciative of where you're from. And that can be anywhere. But I mean, in my case, the United States, my homeland. So yes, a deep appreciation for my homeland. And but going back to that sense of opportunity, that sense of like, wow, I feel like, when I made the decision to leave Roadshow, I gave my notice about a month before I quit on June 25th of 19. And when I made that decision, there was this incredible sense that even though I didn't intellectually know what was going to happen in my future, that if I took the leap, if I took the leap of leaving a really really solid, a very just a really a very very good job. I mean, that's a very good job to have. Automotive reviews editor at Roadshow by CNET. I mean, that was a big accomplishment in my career. For
In
me.
a lot of ways, it would not seem like a very sensible thing to say, "Hey, I'm gonna leave this behind."
Not
And
practical at all, right? Yeah.
move to
So
a third world country. Yes.
yeah, it just doesn't make sense. And yet, even though it was a big curveball that I was throwing my reality, there was this deep. It wasn't even a belief. It was just this because I was like stressing out. I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna I just had this come to Jesus phone call with my boss, and they're like, if you can't get your output up, then we're gonna have to issue a performance improvement plan. And so I'm like, I've never been written up in my life, and like, oh, we believe it. We know you're working hard and burning the midnight oil. Where you're an absolute workhorse, but you got to at the same time.
It's not good enough.
Yeah, well, at the same time, you got to figure out how to get out of your own way. I mean, it's like, so I'm like, whoa, okay, and like I'm all stressed out, and I've got a 2020 Lexus RX reveal for the mid-cycle refresh of that generation. Like next day, I'm like doing the video for it. The next day at the reveal thing, and I'm like, I got to write this thing up, and I got to write up the script, and all these things. Like I can't even focus on work because I'm just spiraling right now. I'm like, oh my god, how do I keep this job somehow? And then I asked myself the question, what if I were to leave? And I didn't even know the human physiology was capable of turning on a dime like that. But I went from end of the world mode to pure peace.
Sure.
Unadulterated calmness, just tranquility in just the snap of the fingers. And like I said, it wasn't a belief. It was just a knowing that came over me. And I can't explain how that happened, but it was just this deep knowing that if you take this leap of faith, you're going to be better off in maybe a year or two's time. It was like something that spoke to me. And
Sure.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then everything in Bali happened and all these things, and just, little by little, the realizations here and there happened. And
what I want to know is like, so when you were at CNET and you had all this stress and all of this stuff was going on and you couldn't keep up and you were trying to figure out what to do. And at that point, did anything ever cross your mind? Like, you get to review cars for a living. Why would I give this up? Why, because I think a lot of people might aspire to that and think, I can't believe, Manual would have given all that up.
Well, yeah. I wasn't giving it up because I was planning on returning back to freelancing. I always had an open door at Rob Report, and I'm happy to be freelancing for them, and a couple of other outlets as well right now. But in addition to the main thing we're going to be talking about, as we move along in my story here, but I wasn't leaving the career. I was thinking. I mean, I had thoughts about leaving the industry. I'm like, okay, well, I couldn't cut it in a mainstream in-house editorial position. If I can't cut it there, then where do I go after this? And there was confusion there, but I knew I wasn't leaving. I knew I wasn't giving up my dream career. This is what I do for a living is what I've always wanted to do. Even though I began my career in radio back in 2007, working for 97.1 the FM talk station in Los Angeles, and had a great 2-year run there over at CBS Radio. But I knew that was something to kind of get me started. But I knew I wanted to get into automotive media. I didn't know how I was going to get into it, but I knew I wanted to. And then I just happened to fall into the industry by being at the right place at the right time through doing a photo gig that I was hired for the K-Rock Coachella House back in 2012. So and like, those people just happen to own a car website too. You should write for us. And then did that for free for a while, and then combining that with all my previous experience writing for radio and stuff like that and other things, I was able to start applying for in-house editorial positions, and then got hired at Internet Brands, and then left there after 4 years, and then started freelancing for a while. And then Roadshow happened. I'm like, okay, I'll go back to freelancing and we'll see how that goes. But this time I wasn't going to be hustling a bunch of stories that I didn't want to be writing. I was just, okay, let's see what comes. Like, let's see what gets presented before me. I just follow your excitement and see where that leads you. So that's what I did. That was kind of the thing that I did it differently the second time around. I'm like, just follow your excitement and see where that will take you. See how long that can sustain you. So, because when I got to Bali, I'm like, okay, let me email every editor I know and start drumming up business. I was falling back in my old bad habit of like, just only do it from the brain and not from the heart.
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
I went into a depression, and like it was like use that depression to kind of realize, okay, this is not the way I should do it. Just kind of let it come. You're here in Bali to reset. You're not here to work. I did a little bit of work there, but I didn't work a lot. I wrote about 3 articles during my entire 10 weeks there. So I didn't do a lot of work. But that's $300 a month for rent there. You don't really need to work a lot when you're there. So I just kind of was in receive mode. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm back in the United States now after Bali. I'm going to just keep doing that and see what happens. November rolls around. So now it's 2 months after I had returned. And luckily the synchronicities opened up perfectly to where the apartment I left, my roommate who lived in the master bedroom, he bought a condo and was like, hey, my room's going to be opening up. So you get first right of refusal. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm coming back then. So the apartment I had left after 5 years, I ended up coming back to after a nice little 3-month hiatus, moved back to where I'm broadcasting from, where you're hearing, where you're seeing me right now, in El Segundo, after just before Halloween. So I've been back for more than a year now. So now 6 years here, and I love it. So that happened, and that was something that aligned nicely. So then November rolls around. It was just after a couple of days after Thanksgiving. And I was at my mom's house at that time, visiting, and I get an email that morning, and it's from a person working on development for this show, and they say, "Hey, we're in development with this show, and we think you'd be a good fit for helping us tell these stories of like these scandalous stories that have happened in automotive history. We think you'd be a really great person to kind of help us tell these stories." So I'm like, they're like, "Hey, do you have time for a phone call later on?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So we jump on a phone call. We talk about what the project is, and I'm intrigued. I'm like, okay. I don't know how this came out of the blue, but okay, it just kind of happened out of nowhere. But I'm down. So we'll give you more information, and fast forward to January 7th of 2020, and we filmed the mini pilot. And the show didn't have a title or anything. It was just, okay, we're gonna be talking about this car called the Dale. So look up everything you can about the Dale, kind of get familiar with the story of the Dale.
Yep.
And we're coming to this place in Signal Hill called Oil Stain Lab, and we're going to be filming there. Okay, cool. I'll see you January 7th. So go in, and it just flowed out of me. I mean, it felt so natural. Mm-hmm. It was just, I'm sorry for saying the word incredibly so much, but it was remarkably fun. And it was a really good time, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. And I really loved how I was just able to let my personality flow through and tell these. I need to look up thesaurus.com, but it's just
sure.
Just ridiculous story.
Yeah.
Ridiculous story.
So when you got this phone call, it was, like you said, it was out of the blue. Did you ever track kind of how the pieces were put together to lead to you, or it's you just kind of just accept that it was sort of it's sort of your time to kind of make it in this new world?
Excellent question. So I was from November when we jumped on that phone call, late November, to January 7th when I showed up and met everybody for the first time. I while they were getting ready and setting up the shot before I sat on the couch for the first time, I was like, so how did you find me? And so this, I'm asking this to the guy who initially emailed me, and his name's Alex Hoff, and he's the vice president of development for the production company that ended up producing Seduced by Speed, which is on Motor Trend, which you can stream now. Right now, the first 3 episodes are available, which first premiered December 3rd. But yeah, Seduced by Speed. We'll put that first plug in there. Seduced by Speed. Now you can watch the retelling of the biggest automotive scandals that have happened in the pantheon of automotive history. That's what the show is about. So anyhow, going back to January 7th now, we're doing the mini pilot. I'm like, yeah, so how did you find me? And he's like, well, I've known about you for a couple of years now. I think it might have been through your Instagram, but what I do in my job is I basically look for, always looking online and just trying to discover people left and right because it could always be a good idea or a good pick for a show idea that we might have in the
Sure.
future.
At
And
some
so I'm
point.
always loading up my armamentarium of people who might be a good fit for the different shows that we're developing on an ongoing basis. We're always developing shows, so I saw you a couple of years ago and filed you away and then thought you'd be a perfect fit for this. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So when you first showed up there, did you know that this was going to be on Motor Trend? Did you know where it was going to go, or had they sold it to? Had they brought it to Motor Trend, or were they kind of shopping around? I'm just sort of curious how that all came together. It's even anything you can disclose.
I think that's the thing. It's like I hope I'm able to disclose that.
I'm just curious. I mean, you can talk, you can speak in general terms. I was just curious if you knew it was going to be on Motor Trend.
I mean, I think I'll be fine with what I'm saying, but I can't really remember, to be honest with you. I think to the best of my ability to recall that it was a show that was being where the intention was to have it go on Motor Trend, but I just don't really, I can't remember where we were along that process as of January 7th of this year. But I think that's where it was headed, at least.
Sure.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's funny because I've sort of put off subscribing to Motor Trend. Actually, I subscribe to Motor Trend on demand because of the show. So I think you should get a commission. Whatever little piece of that $5 a month. I mean, I think I might have only paid $3 a month. They had some special promotion going on, but after I signed up, I'm like, why didn't I do this sooner? I think it's one of those things where there's a lot of great content on it. This show is awesome. I'm really excited to see the Vector episode, which is coming out, which I think just debuted a couple minutes ago at the time of recording.
Yeah.
But even what was the other show that I just saw? The Pikes Peak show.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was amazing. I watched all three. I binged all 3 episodes of that Pikes Peak show. It's great cinematography, great music, great stories. But anyway, so
I definitely want to check that show out now that you're giving it the endorsement. I always trust in Tuff's endorsement. So if it's good for Ethan, it's good for me.
It was really, really riveting. I literally sat there. I watched one episode. I'm like, I'm just going to watch all of them right now. And I did the same thing with your show too. So the first episode is about the Dale.
Yes.
Second episode's about DeLorean, which that's a great story. It was such a great story. So many twists and turns, and but anyway, yeah. So actually, the other thing I noticed about the shows is that you got a lot of screen time, especially on the DeLorean. I mean, you were a big part of the show. Is this something you always wanted to do to do television?
It's
sort of like internet television. Like it's television.
So to give you the breakdown about we're kind of going all over the place, but I think your listeners are smart enough to kind of keep track. But so the way it's breaking down is that it's a 6-episode first season.
Yeah.
And so we're halfway through now as of tonight, which just premiered 35 minutes ago, the Vector episode, which is one of the ones that I'm looking most forward to because I am such a big fan of the Vector.
Me my God. Too.
So I can't wait to watch this after we're done with this.
Yeah, this is definitely a poster on the wall car for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, mind you, I haven't seen any of these episodes yet. I mean, as soon as you guys are seeing them is basically when I'm seeing them. I don't get any preview or anything.
Really?
When we were filming a scene of the Vector at Willow Springs Raceway, the president of the company, Michael Hoff, is like, "Let me show you the intro to the Dale episode." I'm like, "Oh my God, okay, this looks amazing!" That was my first time ever seeing that, and that was my only foray into what the show was going to look like.
Sure.
About a month before it ended up debuting on Motor Trend. So, I haven't seen these shows until they're debuting to you guys. So we're all in the same boat here. I get to experience it and enjoy it along with all of you. So no special treatment there, unfortunately.
You can work that into your next contract, when season 2 rolls around. Okay, so I need to see the show before it comes out. I at least need that, That's what you can work into for next season.
Well, I mean, in the same token, I am really thrilled with what I've seen so far. I've, if anybody's watched these episodes already, you've seen the two that have come out. I'm really happy with how the first two have come out, and I'm really excited to see how episode number 3 of the 6 comes out. But yeah, so they all premiere every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. So so midnight on the East Coast. So a Friday debut East Coast, Friday at midnight. But yeah, 9 p.m. Pacific in the evening on Thursday evenings every week for the next three weeks or so now. So yeah, we're halfway through. And then once we run the debuts on Motor Trend On Demand on the app or however you get, however you stream, whether through Apple TV or Amazon, it's all, everything's connected now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Then it migrates over to the Motor Trend cable channel. I know that would be channel 281 on DirecTV, which used to be Velocity. Now, ever since 2018, it's been Motor Trend. It changed. So ever since the Discovery and Motor Trend merger happened. But yeah, so you can catch it if you're you just can't get around to your Motor Trend offers like a 7-day free trial for you to check out the shows. But if you don't get around to that, then you can catch it on the Motor Trend cable network in February, and then after that, it's fingers crossed for a second season order. So that's why I'll be doing everything in my power to promote the show and get awareness around it and everything. And so if anybody else listening to this has a podcast out there, have me on. But to answer your question, Ethan, about where, did I always want to do this? The answer is yes. The short answer is yes. The long answer is when I was a mechanical engineering student at Cal Poly Pomona back in 2003, 2004. I was going through my trigonometry class there, and it was, I was a little bit behind in my math because I didn't go really advanced in high school with math. But I'm like, well, let's see what I can do with engineering. And once I got to trigonometry, I was staying 20 minutes, through like an hour sometimes after class. With the teacher, just like to try to cram it in my brain somehow, because it wasn't. I'm like, okay, how do you mathematically relate these two unrelated looking shapes, but somehow they mathematically relate somehow? What the hell is this witchcraft? I don't get it. But I worked as hard as I could to get a C or C minus in that class, and that was the best I could do. And I'm like, okay. If trigonometry is a big component, I wanted to be a suspension engineer for the Corvette program. That was my dream gig for engineering. Yeah, because Corvette is my all-time favorite nameplate. And so I'm like, okay, if I'm not good at math, obviously now I know that I'm not good at every facet of math that I need to be for what I want to be doing. If I can't be the best engineer, I shouldn't pursue this as a career path. So I'm like, okay, well. Maybe I should get into HR. That sounds like a steady career path. You work at a stable job for 40 years, retire and die, and live a noble life. And just be practical. Being practical is noble, and I should
do that. Yep.
My mom. I'm talking to my mom about switching majors, and she's like, "You should really do something." I mean, the mechanical engineering was a car related thing. Figure out a way to kind of stick with cars. That's what you're passionate about. So. And I kind of molded over. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, So I'm just kind of letting it come to me. And this is back, now we're in 2004 now, and this is back in the era when few people in the United States had ever heard of Top Gear or Fifth Gear, of any of the prominent British motoring programs. And so the only way you were able to get that, and luckily, we started having avenues by which you could see these overseas programs, and we had these file sharing services like Morpheus, Kazaa, LimeWire, all these great platforms back then. And that was how I was able to get awareness. I mean, my first time ever seeing a proper British motoring show was seeing Tiff Needell on the first season of Fifth Gear, piloting the new 996 Porsche 911 Turbo around the Millbrook test circuit and just driving this thing to the end of its life. I'm like, oh my God, this is unlike anything I've ever seen on Motor Week.
Yes. John Davis isn't going to be doing that. I know.
Yeah, this isn't John Davis doing a voiceover with a car going 35 miles an hour on a country road in Maryland. This is nothing like that. This is the guy actually in the car. This guy's really, really scrawny looking. It doesn't look like
one second. I mean, it would be a pretty cool show if you had John Davis doing the kind of like a Top Gear style show. I would watch that. But anyway.
I would totally watch that. And no, I love Motor Week. Quick aside here.
Yes.
When I did my first press trip with John Davis, he actually knew who I was. He's like, "No, I've seen your stuff before." I'm like,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's a legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, I love the hell out of John Davis. He is one of the gods in this industry to me. And
yeah, he's awesome.
Motor Week, I've been watching Motor Week since I was, before I could talk. So
same.
Best believe. All right. So Motor Week is definitely important. But yeah, when I first saw British automotive media, I didn't know that was possible. That was just the next level. Here you have this Tiff Needell character driving a Porsche 911 Turbo to the edge of its life. What the hell is this? They don't do this on Motor Week. Whoa, this is crazy. Even when they go to Roebling Road in Atlanta or in Georgia, like this is crazy. What the hell is this? And I was glued. I was hooked from that point forward. And I was seeking out every one of these British clips that I could. And that's how I discovered Jeremy Clarkson immediately after that. And this guy was like really cool too. And he was driving some cool cars, really, really, ham-fistedly, but with a lot of extravagance and showboating. I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. I was glued. So you have me regularly after that point, just going, staying up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning on school nights, saving videos to my hard drive, video after video after video. I mean, I had like hundreds of hours of Top Gear and Fifth Gear videos, old Top Gear, just whatever was hitting LimeWire, Morpheus, Kazaa, I was putting it on my Dell computer's hard drive. And I was just creating this library that I still have stored on some CD-ROM, back at my mom's house.
Don't admit that. They'll come after you. They will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was just storing these libraries back, 20 years ago, and it was just a revelation for me. So late one night, watching Jeremy Clarkson driving an R34 GTR on the empty airfield, I'm just like watching him have the time of his life doing this, and I'm in the midst of changing majors from mechanical engineering to I don't know what's next. And then I ask myself a question, just like I asked myself the question in 2019, what if I were to leave? In much in that same vein, I ask myself this question: why can't I do what these guys do? And I just couldn't find an answer. I could not find an answer of why I couldn't do what these guys did. I'm like, well, these guys are journalists, so let me see if I can major in like a journalism at Cal Poly Mono. Let's see if they offer that major. And I started looking into it, and communication was the major. Journalism was the emphasis, and I decided to go on the broadcast track. And I just started pursuing my education down that avenue and found that my passion was in that field, as it related to cars. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of it. Fast forward to 12 years later when I made that, so I make that decision in 2004 to pursue that field. And now we're in 2016. And I'm on a Skype interview with a talent scout from BBC America to possibly be one of the hosts for Top Gear on BBC America when it changed ownership from History Channel after those 5 seasons on History Channel with Ferrera, Faust, and Rutledge Wood. Was going over to different ownership with different distribution, and going to be living on BBC America. The American version was, so they were looking for new hosts, and I was tapped for it. And sitting at my computer screen talking to this BBC America talent scout, I'm like, well, listen, I obviously would love the opportunity to be on this show, to be a host on the new American version of Top Gear that's coming for like the 2017 season. But the fact that I've gotten this far is really the true accomplishment to me, and is really the kids follow your dreams moment, because from this dream of like, why can't I do this? Oh my God, like there's a possibility. Like, one of these guys, I could actually be one of these guys. What the hell is my reality? So it didn't really hurt that I didn't get that gig. And a few years later, actually it was earlier this year, right before COVID hit, I think, a person in the industry had heard through the grapevine that I ended up making it to the top 10. So like the fact that I got to top 10 of consideration, was, I mean, just like that's such a dream come true for me. And that, I mean, to me, that is just getting that close is a form of success. May not be the ultimate success, but that is a form of success. So I really always allow that story, that part of my journey to be the real. I mean, you could do whatever you want. I don't care if you're a kid or if you're 35 years old like I am right now. You could do whatever you want as long as it's relevant to your life. I mean, certain things like, I want to be the next Dr. Fauci, but you've never shown an interest in biology or medicine. Like, well, I want to be the next Dr. Fauci. That probably might not. Maybe it might be a sign that that's not relevant for your life path. But if it's something that you're passionate about, then there's a high likelihood that if you really try and if you work at it for 10, 20 years, I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to work at stuff like this for 10, 20 years. I've been working at this for 20 years now.
Sure.
It'll eventually happen because, as a former roommate told me, success is merely a measure of effort over time.
Sure.
So
I think we need to change the title of this podcast to "Welcome to Inspirational Stories with Manual Carrillo." Today we'll be talking about getting to the top 10 of something you've wanted to do since you were a kid.
Or it could be rat feces on my toothbrush.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a lot of curveballs on the way, and there's going to be E. coli poisoning, and there's going to, and there's, But we have plenty of more. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. A little notification there. From my co-host Sean Lawrenson, who is raving about the episode. He just finished watching it actually. So
nice.
Good omen for that. But yeah. So. I'm just excited, guys. I'm just excited. And yes, this is what I've always wanted to do, and now I'm doing it, and I couldn't be happier.
Again, inspirational stories. I was curious if you could tell us a little bit about the mechanics of how the show works in terms of. So you got these stories. The first episode's about the Dale. You have all this really crazy story about how this car came to be. There's a lot of different facets to this story. You got the DeLorean story in the second episode where there's a lot of different parts of this. Do you basically just do a bunch of research, show up, and then they film you for a day? Is that kind of how it kind of comes together for you?
So the I really like how they did this. I have to give props to Hoff Productions. They're just a really so many years of combined experience of that company. I mean, I think they've been in business for like 40 years now. They've done so many shows. And
it's not David Hasselhoff that runs this? It's
no.
Okay. Yeah. Just checking. Okay.
A wonderful gentleman by the name of Michael Hoff, who makes me laugh like crazy.
That's awesome.
So really talented guy. He's been working in the industry for a long time. He knows what works. He knows what doesn't work. He knows how to develop a show and bring it along. So it really taught me a lot about how, hopefully you're, sorry about these.
No, you're busy. You're a busy man, Manuel. We need to know that you got a lot of things happening right now.
Well, a lot of things going on right now. But yeah, so I really learned a lot about the process of how to get a TV show going.
Sure.
So the way it worked was we filmed that mini pilot January 7th, and it was Alex Hoff, the vice president of development, the guy who discovered me, so to speak. He was sitting behind the diffuser for the light. It was like a confessional almost.
Ooh, you can really see him. Yes.
We're at Oil Stain Lab, where Nikita Bryden, one of our co-hosts, he and his brother run that operation where they do custom car fabrication, and they build their own designs from the ground up because they're former car designers and they're engineers. Yep. Really, really talented guys. So, and really, really funny too. I've spent time with both of them, and they're absolutely hilarious guys. I go to this place, and they're setting up for me, and they sit me down on the couch, and I had already spent some time researching the Dale story. Just, looking at old People magazine archived articles from the 1970s about this Geraldine Elizabeth Carmichael character, and just figuring out this story, and like, whoa, this is just nuts. And they're interviewing all these people like this plot here. And I'm like, what the hell? This is crazy. So yeah, getting a general familiarity about it. And then it was really cool because the way they do it is, you fill your mind with all the, everything you can about the story. wherever you can find, the research that you're, just grabbing all the research that you can. And then you go in and they just ask you questions. And it's not like from a beginning to end kind of thing. It's just like, okay, let's talk about what was going on. Let's start off with what was the culture of the 1970s, what was happening with the OPEC crisis, what was happening with the OPEC oil embargo, talk about how fuel prices went from 35 cents a gallon to 65 cents or something, and so just like, riff on that for a few minutes. Now riff on this part for a few minutes. Now let's talk about, okay, let's go all the way to the Dale now and talk about what the car was like, the 2-cylinder 40 horsepower engine, all these other things, talk about the engineering of it, talk about whatever you can, just vomit at us what you want to say about it. We're going to ask you these different questions, and then we're going to just cut it up and see what we can turn it into. So it was really cool, and it allowed me to just kind of flow the information out of myself and let it be really natural. I really loved it. So I thought that was how the show was going to be, where you just talk about the car, and that was that. And so then the COVID thing hits, and and actually no. So we get picked up. The network really liked it, and so that was great news. And found that out February 11th, which also happens to be my father's mother's birthday. My grandma passed away in '94, but like I've really good things have happened to me on that day. Interestingly, so it's like, oh, thanks, Grandma. So on February 11th, I found out that we got picked up, and that was, oh my God, you can't believe, you just.
That's gotta be awesome.
How joyous I was that day, and I was on a press trip that day too, so I was having a fun time already. Cadillac, and like experiencing all the coolest architecture of Palm Springs with the Cadillac XT6 on that program. It was a really, really cool time. So and then I found that I was just like, I was one of the happier days of my life for sure. And then. Then COVID hits and that delayed filming. But then you go back into the studio August 7th through Oil Stain Lab, where we filmed most of the show. And it's like, okay, we're going to do the first episode again. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, well, why can't we just use what we had from the mini pilot? Well, like that was for a 5-minute clip to show the network. It's not. We only did enough for that much. And so, because they only interviewed me for an hour, but I thought, oh, it seems like we have an entire show there. You cut with what I say, with what everybody else says, then you have a full show. But it just wasn't enough. So we had to redo it. And the way it worked with the official time was that you do a Zoom interview. So you connect with a producer, one of the producers, and there were different producers for different episodes of the show. Three producers total, but then one ended up leaving early in the show, so it was two. And kind of the episodes were split between them. So I would, for instance, like I would have one of my producers, Patrick Hart's, a fantastic individual who I really had great chemistry with, and he was able to kind of get the emotion out of me like nobody else could. All the producers were good, but like Patrick Hart's in particular, like he was able to like really kind of key in on certain elements to really get my emotions flowing and everything. He would just, he would provide, the producers would provide a treatment for the particular episodes. They would compile their own research. They would do everything that they could to get all the data they could, interview different people and create a story. We'd use that, we'd read it over, and then we'd start gathering our own research and kind of keying in on things we wanted to talk about more or what have you, and just kind of zoning in on things that we would think that we would do good on. And then you'd study all that and get it, fill your brain with every facet of knowledge you could about that particular episode's subject. And then, all right, how about, 11 a.m. on Wednesday, and then we would do a Zoom interview for 3 hours.
Wow. Okay.
And so for the 30-minute, for the little 5-minute mini pilot, just an hour is required of interviewing. But for the full stuff, 3 hours. So
this is kind of like a dry run of what you're going to be filming.
A dry run, yes.
Talk about this, maybe don't talk about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And let's just see, throw it at the wall, see what sticks, kind of thing. Yeah. So you go through every facet of the subject matter over the 3 hours. And it's kind of exhausting because you're talking at a computer screen for imagine podcasting for 3 hours straight. It's tiring. But you just kind of throw everything you have into the story over those 3 hours, and they ask you the different questions, and you go through different points of it. And then from there, the editors will cut up the best parts of what you said with the best parts of what the other co-hosts say, and then they use that as a kind of like a draft episode, just all filmed on across Zoom.
Yep.
They share that to the network. The network gives its feedback of where they want. Like, oh well, how about you have them do more of this? How about you have? We like it when this guy is kind of snarky. If kind of just like figure out a way to kind of get him to deliver the snarkier bits of the story that'll help the story flow more. And so all this brain trust is converging upon how these stories will be told in the most effective, most compelling, most gripping manner possible. And so I love that. I just like, because I'm, in the editorial side of automotive media, you learn how to craft a story to where it flows and it's compelling and it keeps the reader engaged. But when you see that done on the television side of things, it's really an art unto itself. That's just brilliant. And I really admire it. And I'm so glad that I've been through that now, because I see how it's like what. And then when you see the episodes live, it's like, wow, I love how they structured that and everything. So yeah, just like to see everything that, when you know everything that goes into these shows, it's just it only makes it more amplified, and it only it just only makes it more special for me, the viewer, and I hope for you, the listener, to see what goes into these shows too. But it's just a really cool experience. So yeah, the draft comes about through the Zoom episodes, and then from there, They cut everything together. It takes about it took several weeks to do those things, and then in between, so they're showing it to the network once they've all edited all the footage and stuff like that from Zoom, and then they put that package together and like, okay, this is basically the show that we want. So let's create a script from that. So the script is based off stuff that I and my co-hosts said off the cuff from being interviewed.
I see. Okay.
They edit it down. It's like, okay, we're going to isolate these things that you said, and we're going to create a show out of that. And so you go into the studio, you go to, or in our case, Oil Stain Lab, and you, it's like, all right, so we're going to start with the part of, let's talk about the fuel crisis now. And here's a part where you said, okay, and it was madness where you had to wait around the lines and you had to wait around the block and blah, 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 blah. So basically you don't have to say that verbatim, but say that again now.
Sure.
So we're going to ask the question, say what you said, but say it again.
Well, that's kind of interesting that you do sort of, you almost have kind of like a rehearsal before you're filming this.
Yes. So they that's basically how it worked. And then you go and film the official one. And I'd usually come in at 11 on Wednesdays. And so, we would be one episode. We'd film one episode per week. Come in 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, and usually would be done by about 2. And if we had to do pickups from another episode where it's like, oh, we need to redo a line from an earlier show, so always wear the same clothes. Yeah. So you're always going to see me wearing that black getup. And if we had to do a pickup, we wanted to keep the continuity. So and then later on, they were like, well, you like maybe bring a different look to the track when you go and talk about the Vector, or bring a different look to the museum when you go talk about the Chisetta. And so, but then they're like, no, we decided that you all have your look now, and these are like your signature looks, so you're just going to look the same way throughout the entire thing. Okay, whatever.
That makes it easier. Yeah. On the editor.
I mean, you'll see, and like especially in the DeLorean episode, my hair is really weird and long looking, and like I didn't like the way my hair looked, and like it looks kind of way too Lyle Levitt-ish, and and so like it's Lyle Levitt one scene, and then the next scene is like all short and nice and prim and proper.
I actually was gonna mention that because I noticed that. I did notice that. I noticed like, wait, you look a little bit different in this. Like, I think it was the Dale episode where there's a couple scenes where like went from one scene to the other. Like, okay, this was definitely shot on a different day. Well,
here, I'm going to give your listeners some real inside baseball here, because I started my invisible aligner treatment on July 27th.
Okay.
So then we start filming in August. So as you see the episode progress, like my teeth weren't crooked really too much to begin with, but if you look really closely, you can start seeing my teeth getting straighter and straighter throughout the episode.
That's great.
Yeah. So you heard it here first on Hello Road. But Yeah, I mean that's how we did every episode, and then we would do some pickups. So it's pickups again are when you redo lines from earlier shows when they feel that we're missing something here. We need something in this part of the story to help it flow more, or we're gonna redo this line to where you're picking up off of what the previous person was saying, and you're just it'll like I'll talk about like in the DeLorean episode, for instance, where I'm like, and the GTOs were amazing in that you could buy a brand new car and a brand new house, but pretty much as soon as you graduated high school, and then you buy this brand new GTO with all its performance, and you're off to the races. And then Bisimoto, busy, off of that, he's like, off to the races indeed, because these cars are really powerful. So yeah, so I like how that flowed. But yeah, that's basically the nuts and bolts of how we filmed the show. I guess another thing I could say was that the majority of the scenes were filmed at the Bryden Brothers oil stain lab. So Nikita at his desk, him doing the design work on his head. Then I would be on their couch. It would look like a different spot, but the shop is versatile enough to where you can have different looks, different scenes, to where you have a specific set, if you will, for the particular host. So I was the couch person. He got his little table desk thing with his Surface Pad. And you had Sean Paul Lawrenson, with his jacket and
it's quite a fancy jacket he's wearing in all
very
this episode.
Fancy jacket,
very fancy.
Mind you, with a lot of that filming happening in August and September, we had some hot days.
Yes.
Oil stain lab. So we're wearing clothing that we were originally, first brought to the mini pilot January 7th. And now all of a sudden it's the middle of August and it's 105 degrees outside in Signal Hill, California. And there's no air conditioning in the shop.
Okay.
So constantly wiping the sweat off your brow. And so yeah, I was going through bottles of water left and right. Like I would take a handful, and mind you, this is during the peak of COVID too, so I'm all like masked up and everything. Like I can only take my mask off when I'm ready to film. And our line producer Heather Porter, she was like always like making sure we're always masking up as much as possible and being as safe as possible. So there was it was very professionally done and approached in light of COVID and everything. Everybody's 6 feet apart and wearing every protocol mask, face shields, gloves, the whole sanitizer everywhere you look. So yeah, that was all those protocols were looked after. But yeah, so yeah. Mm-hmm. I forgot where I was going with that, but yeah, basically.
It's like it's kind of like when you look at like YouTube, like you start out with like Ethan, for example, you're doing the YouTube videos and you've got I'm sure Ethan's got a more elaborate rig than like a selfie stick and like a cell phone.
It's pretty close to that, but yeah.
but you go from something as like you've had a lot of different videos in the past, and now you're at this next stage that's quite a bit bigger. And I mean, it's got to be just awe-inspiring to like be sitting there like, wow, this is a lot more intuitive than like making a YouTube video. There's this person in charge of this person in charge of this, versus me just standing here with my selfie stick and my cell phone. So that's awesome.
It's I started out after my dad died. He died of asbestosis. So there was a little bit of settlement money here and there coming in, and I was out filming with my friend Jonathan Klein. He was out visiting from Chicago with his wife, and they were looking for places to live in California because we're gonna move here. And he was about to go full time into automotive media, and so we were all happy to see him. And Bentley gave him a flying spur for the weekend while he was looking at apartments all around Southern California. So we tagged along. And I brought my camera and my little, T3i, and just gonna film a short little fun review video and see what happens. And I knew a little bit of money was going to be coming my way from the settlements. Like an extra 1,000 here, an extra 1,500 here, little checks here and there. And the plan was to get my Fox Body Mustang running from the little bit of monies that I was getting here and there. And then February of 2014, 15, whatever it was, I have the date on my website, but that fateful day happened, and I hadn't been filled with that much euphoric, positive energy in years. So that was one of the happier days of my life. I just felt so in tune with my life purpose that day, helping to make that video. I was real. I felt. I mean, there's just like there's a handful of times in my life where I can pinpoint different scenarios in my life where I'm like, oh yeah, that was something that really changed my life. That was where I really felt like I was the cornerstone. Like I was just right in the middle of the eye of the storm of everything that I am in that particular moment. Like, yes, that I can point to that. And the euphoria I felt that day, just the astonishing level of fun that I was having doing all that. I'm like, oh no, this is what I need to be doing. And from that day forward, I'm like, no, any monies that I get, I'm going to invest in my own production equipment, and I want to make really beautiful YouTube videos. And if any of you listening right now are familiar with some of the stuff I've put out back in the day, back when I still had the patience to spend 120 hours editing a video, like the Nissan GTR video, where I'm like color grading every scene and like doing it, like really approaching it from a cinematic angle. Yep. That was all those videos were born out of that fateful day in February of 2015, I think it was. So, and that's what helped me get to CNET, and everything, everything builds on everything. Mm-hmm. So it's all about, like everybody who's doing a college commencement speech is always saying, follow your passion. But it's true though. You have to freaking follow your passion. There's no other way to do it.
Welcome to Inspirational Stories with Manual Carrillo.
I know it's cliche, but that's the only way it can work. There's no other way around it. And if it sounds like leaving a really like how do I describe it? A sure thing kind of job like Roadshow by CNET. It's like, wow, you're really. I mean, I lost friends. Because I left that job. One of my best friends stopped talking to me because I moved to Bali and left Roadshow and moved to Bali. And he still doesn't talk to me to this day. And I reach out to him and he ignores my texts. And so there was collateral damage because he thought it was career suicide. He thought it was, and there were a couple of friends like that. And thankfully one of them has come around and still talks to me, but another one of them does not. And that's, maybe you'll come around one day, maybe not. I don't know. But friendships have ended over that decision. And so understandably so too. I mean, what I did was crazy, but at the end of the day, I was true to myself. I followed my heart. My brain didn't know what the future was, but it seemed like my heart did, because I just felt like everything was going to be fine. And look at where I am now. Mm-hmm. So follow your dreams, kids. Shit.
I know. For sure. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to do, especially if they have kind of a comfortable job. I think that's the thing, is that when you're comfortable, you're sort of more complacent and maybe, but I guess when looking at you at Roadshow, it doesn't seem like you were comfortable. So maybe you didn't have that problem.
I didn't have that problem at all.
But I think there's a lot of other people out there that they might want to do something else, but they have kind of like you said, a sure thing, something that they can fall back on. Like they're living their fallback dream. They're living their fallback position. Whereas like, I think it's important to think about, you look at your life, you look at the potential, you look at what you're doing now and thinking that maybe making a big drastic change will be really painful in the short term, but in the long term could really make some incredible changes that are for the better, and bringing you closer to where you really need to be emotionally.
And that, for most people, that's going to be the case. It's going to be painful at the beginning. I was lucky. I felt like I had this, spiritual connection to the future. That was just kind of like, it just flashed before me, and
rat feces really helped with that too. So
the
rat feces really helped with that process.
I think
it really that was the pivotal moment in your career, was that rat poop. I mean, if it wasn't for those rats, you might still be you might have gone back to CNET and be like, okay, I'm just going to keep writing all this stuff.
I think that, I didn't experience my pain and suffering immediately. It was more just, this peace and then excitement once I realized, this is my chance to move to Bali and all that. And then the suffering came later. But it was all part and parcel of the process. And you got to trust the process ultimately. And but I mean, that's ultimately what it was, though. Through all the peaks and valleys of everything, and the journey from roadshow to now. People pay a lot of money to ride roller coasters, and life certainly is a roller coaster ride. And we didn't have to pay anything to get here, so it's a big bargain. It's the biggest bargain of a lifetime. But the roller coaster has gotten me to a place I'm pretty happy with right now, and I really look forward to wherever I continue to go with it. So
that's great. I'm awesome. Really. Proud of you, Manual. This is I'm super excited about this show, and wanted to let everybody else know about it. If they're not subscribed to Motor Trend, you got to see it. It's really good.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we got a lot of good stuff for this episode. There's a lot of meat to this episode. There's some gems in here. I think this is a keeper. I'm glad I recorded this one.
A lot of meat and a good side of potatoes.
So why don't you tell us once again where we can check it out, the details on that, so everybody can remember, so they can tune in and give Motor Trend a couple bucks a month, because it's worth it.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I've been doing the research over the past couple of weeks. Yeah. Motor Trend is currently running a discount, like a holiday discount right now, where you can pay $24 for an annual subscription. So that ends up being less than $2 per month. It's $23.99 for the total. So like $199.9999999.
It's nothing
per month. Yeah, I mean, for less than a price of a Starbucks, the average price of a Starbucks nationwide is $2.75. In New York, it's up to $3.25, but that's New York City. But nationwide, your average Starbucks drink is $2.75 for 75 cents less per month. We're not talking about every day, like a lot of you Starbucks people do. You go every day through that drive-through. I don't know how the hell you guys do that stuff. I'm go with our mutual friend Kyron Byrne. He's a Starbucks addict, and I go with him through that drive-through all the time. I'm like, how do you spend 30 minutes? Like, how do you give yourself 30 minutes a day to wait through this line? He doesn't even like that anymore. But every time we'd go out, let's go to Starbucks. Oh, please, don't make me freaking wait through that line. I hate being grouped in with that inconvenience of waiting. Anyhow, for less than the price of a Starbucks that you only one time a month you have to pay $2. Come on, man. It's like you're getting this library of some of the best content the internet has to offer, automotive media has to offer, in one place through a wonderful streaming service. You can stream through your Apple TV, through your Amazon, whatever, your Fire Stick or your Hulu, whatever things, or however people are streaming stuff these days. I don't know. Anyhow, you can get it that way. Everything is integrated, like I said earlier, for $2 a month. If you don't want to pay, $23, which ends up being $2 a month for the annual, then I think it's like $4 a month, or like $5 a month for a membership. So, but best of all, though, you don't have to pay immediately. You are afforded right now a 7-day free trial, which means that if you were to subscribe as you're hearing this, whether it's December 18th or 19th, whenever this episode comes out, you are able to stream for free the first 3 episodes of Seduced. This sounds so sales pitchy, but
it's all good. Do it. It's all good. Yeah, we'll allow it.
This feels like a case, like a PBS telethon,
phones are open now. Call now and make your donation.
But yeah, so yeah, for as much as $5 a month, if you want to do the monthly thing, but yeah, like I said, the 7-day free trial, you can see the first 3 episodes of Seduced by Speed on Motor Trend for free, and then even get the next one that drops next Thursday night/Friday morning. Because that would fill in, that would come at toward the end of your 7-day membership, so you'd be able to see the first 4 episodes for free at this point. And if you're hooked, if you like what they're doing at Motor Trend, if you like some of the other shows, I mean, look, like as Ethan said earlier, that Pikes Peak episode, that Pikes Peak series that he was watching, I'm going to watch it now on his recommendation.
Yep.
You have all these wonderful shows that are brought to you by Motor Trend through your nominal subscription fees. So I highly recommend it. And now that you've heard the background about Seduced by Speed and how the sausage is made there, now you have even more reason to check out the show and the baby that I'm so proud of. So please subscribe today. Motor Trend, look it up on the App Store, Motor Trend app. Go to search "Seduced by Speed" on Google. You'll find it. It's pretty easy to find. So it's Motor Trend streaming app, and you'll be off to the races.
Awesome.
There you go.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. Thanks so much for joining us today, Manuel. What else you got going on? You got any other fun stuff happening? Just gonna stay at home?
We've got a lot of fun stuff going on. Yeah. So in addition to the project that I just finished with Seduced by Speed, hopefully starts up again, sometime next year if we get a second season order. But yeah, I was busy with that this year. In addition to that, beginning in May, I started doing my weekly car reviews for Amazon vehicles, and really, really love my editor over there, Jen Dunaway. She is a very close friend of mine. She's a terrific, gifted editor. Really makes me look a lot smarter than I am. And so it's been great working with her, and it's been great reviewing the cars that I've been reviewing over there. Everything from the Toyota Sienna minivan all the way to the McLaren 600 LT and the Lamborghini Huracan Evo. So I've had the full bandwidth of cars this year through the Amazon Vehicles program. And if you're not familiar, if you've never heard of Amazon Vehicles, it's, Amazon has its hand in everything, obviously. It's Amazon. So yes, they do offer a car buying. There is a car buying component of Amazon. So you can search, all the latest car reviews. You can search all the, all your new car vehicle research you can do through Amazon, and you can get all your specs and pricing data, and then you can read reviews from automotive experts like me. So not only, there's a really great roster of automotive writers who are contributing to Amazon, in addition to my editor, Jen Dunaway, an incredibly talented individual. Then you've got me. You've got the famed Gene Jennings. Gene Jennings writes reviews for Amazon Vehicles. So you have that powerhouse of an individual contributing, as well as the wonderfully talented Joe Lorio. So really, really good. I mean, you pull me out of it. Who cares about me? It's a really good roster of talent who is contributing to Amazon Vehicles. So the reviews are comprehensive, more on the consumer end of, a lot of what you would see like on the consumer side of reviews that, Car and Driver or Roadshow by CNET would be doing. We kind of like a lot, very much in that voice, but with a little bit of enthusiasm thrown in too. So, if I'm writing up a Lamborghini, I'm talking about how I made the 10-year-old kid, across the street, his, he was quiet the first minute, but then the second minute, holy shit, he was, telling me all about his friends and Forza. So yeah, it's we get to have some fun with these stories too. It's not just this is the fuel economy and this is the price.
Check out these HVAC controls.
Yeah. Well, so really happy with what's going on over there, and then still contributing to Rob Report, and so things are moving along there, and I do a little stuff every now and then too for AutoNation Drive. So. And then, got some other irons in the fire too. Always looking for new publications.
Got to do that. Yep.
Yeah. So always expanding, of course. But yeah, so that's what's that's where I'm writing right now.
Awesome.
And having a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, glad to see you're busy, and hopefully we won't go a year and a half in between visits again. I think that seems to be like how often I see you. It's like every year and a half. I don't know how that happens. We need to rectify that once we get this damn vaccine.
I know. So I believe me, we would have hung out several times this year if there were no COVID. So Yeah, and I would have loved to have helped you on a couple of your reviews too, and collaborated. So just like we used to back in the day,
I love that. Yep.
Yeah. But no, congratulations, Ethan, and it just it happened so quickly. You're pretty much at 20,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel now. That's phenomenal. I'm so happy for you. I love to see the amount of growth. It's just the rapid growth that your content is getting. And the reason for that is because it's really, really, really good content. That's why I've always been excited about what you're doing from the beginning, even before, you only had like 2 videos up, and we had for lunch, and you already saw how much I was fanboying over you. So I'm so excited about your channel, and it just really, and then also to you, Mr. Paul McCarthy. Love what both of you guys are doing with this podcast. I think it's a great podcast. I've had such a fun time being on it before, and I look forward to many more times, hopefully, to be on it again. So thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks. I appreciate it. We'll have to, maybe the title is Mutual Admiration Society. Yeah, I appreciate that. Cool. All right. Well, Paul, where can everybody find you on the internet?
The good old internet, you can find me at Paul's Finest Hour on both Instagram and Twitter.
What about you, Manuel? If everybody wants to follow you on the interwebs, where can they go?
At MC3 Films on Instagram and Twitter. So that's for Manual Carrillo III. MC3 Films.
MC3 you should be a DJ, MC, DJ. You should be a musician. I think you're gonna have to work on it.
Well, DJ MC, like MC3 has already been. I would love to use MC3 as my DJ name. I would eventually. I mean, I've been studying piano for the past 2 years. So I would eventually like to get into the music industry later on in life. My dream is to, I do have other dreams beyond. I mean, I'm always going to be in automotive somehow. And, I'd love to remain in this industry until the day I die. I don't ever plan on retiring, but I would like to, after practicing piano for 20 years, I think that there might be an opportunity for me to help produce an album at one point.
Sure.
Come out with my own music, and I would love to DJ events. Eventually, that might sound weird or something like that. It's one of the things I want to do in life. I'm a person who, the way I approach life is I kind of approach life like a buffet, and I want to take a little bite of everything. And there's just a couple of different things and a couple of different industries. Like I said earlier, I've been involved in radio. I've been involved in a bunch of different industries over my career, and as a member of the workforce for the past 25 years. So of course, automotive is the mainstay, and that's always going to be the main thing that I do. But I want to, I want to get into acting eventually. I want to get into music production and music making. So there's a lot of things I have left to do in this lifetime, and I am looking forward to seeing how those things come about.
Well, it's interesting because it's a very similar outlook to what I have. I've primarily been in music my whole life, so I kind of view it the same way. Where I really want to take a little piece of this car thing and make that a thing for a while. Maybe there's something else in the future.
Well, that's why you're one of my heroes, because you have this. You're such a talented musician. I mean, the music that you're able to make is just incredible. I go crazy over how gifted you are. Total mutual appreciation of society. But you are such an inspiration to me, and where you're at musically in your life, I hope to eventually be there one day with my music. And I'm so happy with how far I've come in just 2 years with being able to play the piano. So
it's awesome.
I'm just going to keep my foot on both feet on the throttle.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. Cool. Well, this was a great episode. You can find me on the internet, youtube.com/HelloRoad, Instagram.com/Mr. Ethan Tufts. It's Twitter. Sometimes I'm there talking about weird cars occasionally, if I'm not getting mad about the state of the world. So thanks so much, Manuel, for joining us. Paul, next week we'll probably talk about our crappy car collections. And all right, I think that's going to be it for today. All right.
And thanks again for having me, guys. Really appreciate it. Really had fun down here.
Awesome. Take it easy, everybody.
All right.